Over the last 20 years, I think I've tried to get web design clients in every possible way that there is. And I've come to this interesting realization, which is there's really only three ways to get web design clients. It's sort of like how you can get all of the colors from just three primary colors, like red, green, and blue. Well, I think it's pretty much the same thing with web design. There's three primary categories where you can get clients. And I want to go through all three categories right now and then give you a strategy on how you can boost all three of them at the same time. And I think that you'll also find that in the process of doing this, you're also AI proofing your business for the future, because it's already happening right now. Like right now, AI is making some web designers irrelevant while others are becoming even more powerful and more helpful. And the difference just comes down to positioning. Some web designers are positioned in this transactional implementation kind of mode, and other web designers are much more results driven, relationship driven. In terms of the way that they structure their business. And like, I don't really want to do the transactional kind of implementation style work anymore. In fact, I got away from that almost a decade ago because I feel like it was just, it's not really what I'm looking for. Like, do you ever have somebody that calls you up and they'll say, maybe they found you through a search or something like that. So they don't really know you. They don't really know anybody else who knows you. They just sort of discovered you somehow, maybe on a site like Fiverr or something like that. And like, hey, I just want you to do this one thing. I just want a landing page. I don't want to have to pay a maintenance fee. I don't want to have to pay for hosting and all that support stuff. I just want you to do this one thing. I'm not looking for any marketing or SEO or ads or anything else. Just this one thing. How much does that cost? If it's too much, I'm just going to go get the same thing for less from the next guy. Like, I feel like if that's where you've positioned your business, then not only is it really frustrating right now, but it's going to be worse in the future as AI takes over a lot more of that implementation. Whereas on the other side, like, I'm not really looking for the transactional stuff. I'm looking for more of the relationship, results-oriented stuff, where people are coming to me saying things like, I want to launch a new location, or my calendar is only half full. I'd love to fill it up. I want to be fully booked and I don't know how to do it. Or I've got this new product I want to launch. You know, like these types of like results-oriented concepts where we can develop a relationship over time to achieve those really long-lasting and powerful results for the client. Like, so I'm looking for that. And so if I'm looking for those types of clients, there's almost no difference at all between getting clients and just building relationships. Almost in the same way that it's like making friends, you know, like it's a relationship driven thing. So what I want to share with you right now are the three ways that you can actually get more relationships. Because if you can get more relationships, you'll get more clients. Like the big takeaway from this video today, if nothing else, is simply make more relationships. And if you make more relationships, you will AI proof your business. And not only will you AI proof your business, you will also have lots of great clients that pay you on a monthly basis with recurring revenue. And it's just absolutely the way to go, because then you can have a handful of very high value clients that you work with on an ongoing basis. And then you don't have all the gaps between the projects and all the stress between waiting to figure out where your next lead is going to come from. You end up just having these clients that pay you consistently. And so you end up having these streams of income. And you can stack the streams, and not only can you stack the streams, but you can grow the individual streams in the stack at the same time. So that's how you get that snowball kind of exponential growth to your business, is through these relationship clients. And so if you want to get more relationships, there's only three ways to do that. There's only three ways to get more relationships. The first one is shared relationships, and that's what people would traditionally think of as referrals, or potentially like if you partner up with like an ad agency or something like that, where they share their clients with you. But most of the time it's referrals. Like you have some mutual friend and then they say, hey, you really ought to have Lee build your website. He does great work. And then that friend comes to me and we already have the trust. We're kind of sharing this relationship. And so that's referrals. And that's a decent source for leads. But the problem with it is inconsistent. And you can fall into a little bit of a trap, especially if you're just beginning web design, where you get bad referrals. Because like sometimes you might have like a friends and family discount. Even if you don't publicly state that you have that, when you're building up your portfolio in the beginning, it's very common to say, well, I'll just do it for cheap so that I can build up my portfolio. But then like, let's say I build a website for my brother and I give it to him for like $500, even though it would really be like a $5,000 site. And then he's going to be like, oh, this website's awesome. You ought to go get my brother to build this website for you. He built this one for me. It's only $500. And now I'm getting all of these referrals from people who are looking for $5,000 websites, expecting me to only charge $500 because that's what I did for my brother, and this kind of friends and family discount kind of a thing. And that's a mess. It's really hard to break out of that. And so I want to give you a strategy that does not have that problem, even though you're still getting referrals. So anyway, so the first way to get these clients is through shared relationships. The second way is stacked relationships. Interestingly enough, all three of these things start with S, so they're kind of easy to remember. You got shared, you got stacked. Stacked relationships would be sort of like your fame or your social proof, or generally speaking, it's the idea that other people have already started to work with you, and therefore I should too, because it seems like you did a great job for them. And if you look at like Apple, for example, why do people buy iPhones? Like if I want to go out and buy an iPhone, I don't have to know anyone at Apple. I don't really have to get a referral to somebody. Like everybody already knows what that is. And I would think, well, if all these other people really like their iPhones and I had an iPhone, I'd probably like it too. So I'm just going to stack my relationship on top of this already growing stack that they already have. And that works with web design as well, especially like if you've got a portfolio with a ton of local service businesses and I have a local service business, and I'm seeing that your clients are getting great results, and I just want to stack my business on top of that. And then you sort of grow this kind of fame, social proof. You get lots of reviews, and so it's stacked relationships. And then the third one is sparked relationships, which is what you would normally think of as just creating a new relationship, creating a friend, going out and meeting somebody, sort of on a one-to-one individual basis. And I've got this strategy that I've come up with called Local Legends, that does all three of these simultaneously without having to worry about the low-cost sort of off-point referral relationships. And the way that Local Legends worked, it's really kind of an in-depth strategy. In fact, it's more in-depth than I'm going to go into in this video. It'd be like a super long video. If you want to get the long video, I've got a link in the description. You can click down there and check the whole thing out right now. It goes into all of the details of how the whole Local Legend system works. But right now, I just want to talk about creating these connections and sparking these relationships, because it's such a simple process and it's fun, but it's a little bit counterintuitive. So the first step of sparking these relationships with regard to this Local Legends concept is to create a community, like a local business community. It doesn't even have to be like in person. There are in-person components to it, which we'll talk about in just a second, but you don't have to do that. At a bare minimum, it would just be like a website that spotlights local businesses around in your community and just shares information. Like, I don't really even think of it as a business directory. I think of it more like spotlighting local business owners, so the people in the community can get to know the owners, and then the owners are like, well, they're your neighbors. They're people that you should be knowing, but you probably haven't had a chance to because you haven't met or whatever. And now we can create this community, and you'd be like, oh, well, my neighbor does this cool thing, and now I want to go to his business and support it. And so you have this local community business website that allows you to spotlight all of these local businesses, that gets them a lot more visibility, it gets them more trust, it gets them connected to the community. Simply by being on the website, it's a really big benefit. So in addition to that, I'll also throw in other things into something that I refer to as a welcome pack. So like if you want to join my business community, not only will I spotlight you on my website, but I'll also give you some other cool stuff. Like I've got a Google review app that I have on my phone where I can, you can basically just, from like the click of a button, you can send a review link by text or by email, or there's a QR code that you can scan. So it's like this really cool app, and I can say, hey, just come join this community. I'll spotlight you on the website. You get this app. And then we also do have in-person stuff that happens. So like on the first and third Thursdays of every month, we just meet up. There's a coffee shop down the street, and it's free to go. You don't have to subscribe. It's not like BNI where you have to pay a bunch of money. It's just a community-driven business networking group where, in fact, it's a little bit different even from the way, if you've ever been part of BNI where there's like only one seat per industry, this doesn't really work like this. It's much more about bringing all of the local business owners together as more of a community where everybody's just sharing information, what's working, just getting to know. It's a relationship-driven thing rather than a referral-driven thing. But even still, the whole point is come to the group, meet all of these people. There's all this stuff that you can get to support your business. You can get featured on the website. You get this app. You get these in-person meetings. Like all of this cool stuff is going on. And I'll even mention, hey, I also do web design. So like if you're part of this community, you get discounts on my web design and direct mail and all this other stuff. So it's just sitting right here. Why would you not want to participate in this, right? So now I've got this community, this online business community that I'm creating that even has some in-person stuff like we talked about with the in-person meetups at the coffee shop. I've got this welcome pack that's got all this really cool stuff in there. And then all I do in terms of the third step is I just announce it. I just say, hey, I've got this stuff going on. It's a community project. There's all these things that we can do to help support your business. Doesn't it make sense to get involved? And that's how you spark these relationships. And it's so much more effective than saying, hey, do you want to buy a website from me? Or can I do an SEO audit or any of this other stuff? It's It's just so much better. I will say there's one other thing that's maybe two other things that are really interesting. One thing that's interesting is the response rate on outreach with regard to this local legends concept, where you're just saying, hey, there's this community that supports you, you can be a part of it. We're seeing response rates like 20 to 50%. Like most people will at least respond to the fact that you're messaging them about this community. Whereas if you were doing traditional cold outreach, it's like 1%, maybe 2%. So we're seeing like at least 10 times better response rates from this, which I think is really interesting. The other thing that's really interesting is that in addition to like a really increased response rate, there's a way to onboard clients from these conversations, but it requires like a value ladder. Like, so for example, you reach out to some of these businesses and they don't necessarily have the budget to buy every single thing that you want to offer them all at once. And that can be really overwhelming for a lot of businesses, because you might say, well, you really ought to have a website. We ought to do your Google reviews. We ought to do some SEO. We ought to, just fill up the list of all the things they ought to be doing. Create drip campaigns and lead magnets and all of this stuff. And they're going to be like, well, how much does that cost? And you're like, well, it's $20,000, like some huge number. And they're going to be like, wow, I'd love to do it, but it's completely out of my ballpark. I can't afford that right now. And so the key to actually making this successful is to structure your offer as a value ladder. And I have a 3-step value ladder. So I've got like an entry level point, like a mid-tier, and a high end. And by doing it that way, I can tell people how I can serve them and how I can help them. And then if they say, well, how much does it cost? I've got somewhere for them to land regardless of what their budget is. Like my entry level point is $375 per month with a $500 setup, which is only $12.50 per day. Like $375 divided by 30 days of the month, it's less than lunch, right? So like any business owner could potentially afford that if they wanted to, because it's not very expensive. They just need to realize that it's this results-oriented concept, not the transactional concept that we were talking about in the beginning of the video. And so by having this 3-step value ladder, people can start working with you now, even if they can't buy everything that you're offering all at once. So if you want to see some more information about like what services go into this and like how I structure the value ladder, check out this video right here. We can go into that, all of those details. Or if you want to just see what's this big local legends concept in general, check out the full training right up there. All right, I'll see you in just a minute.